Thank you once again for coming in this evening. Today's presentation is about avoiding lower back injuries. Okay. My name is Rodrigo. I'm a personal trainer here. If you don't know me, I've been a trainer for more than 15 years now, massage therapist for about 2 years, maybe a little bit more than that. And I'm also the fitness experience organizer here at Michigan Shores Club. So I help put some events together and workshops and things like that. At any point you want to ask some questions, feel free to ask some questions. Just raise your hand. But we're going to get pretty in-depth into many aspects of lower back injuries. So we're talking about a very serious health topic tonight. Okay, I'm sure most of you, as you're here, have experienced some lower back pain injuries before. And actually, about 80% of people experience low back pain in their life. And that is the study that came up with that statistic. About 26% of adults will have pain at some given point. So if you pick a random room of adults, at least a quarter are going to be having some back pain. There are some risk factors that also have been shown to be more closely correlated to low back pain. First one being repetitive heavy lifting jobs. And this kind of makes you think a little bit, and we'll delve deeper into this as well. How someone, if they're getting used to lifting things all the time, why is that one of the risk factors? Shouldn't the body be adapting to that motion? Well, it seems it doesn't really, depending on how you do it. The use of jackhammers and machine tools, so anything that's very aggressive into the body. Operating motor vehicles. So that means someone that's sitting for a long time. Now, there was also a curious find. This was a little hard to decipher, but joggers and cross-country skiers were more likely to have moderate low back pain than people that were sedentary. So obviously, not all activity is good activity, depending on the person maybe. We'll see a little bit more about that as well. Now, if you look at these studies, this big one was in 1983, or something back then. I'm not sure there has been another one done in this magnitude to find these statistics. But I'll tell you what, when I was growing up, I didn't know any kids that had back pain. And now, just working here, I've met many teenagers that have had some type of back pain or lower back injuries. Yes, teenagers. So I would assume that the 80% number is probably bigger by now. Now, we're going to be talking about a lot of things today, and where did this stuff come from? Most of the information that I'm going to be sharing with you today comes from the functional movement system. So I'm certified with them through their functional movement screen and their SFMA, which is a little bit more in-depth selective functional movement assessment tool. And we'll go through those as well today. Bless you. But also, not just from a practitioner standpoint, but I'm coming at this as well from someone that has had experience with lower back injuries and lower back pain. I myself, when I was in my early 20s, injured my lower back. You get that feeling. I was deadlifting. I just felt something really sharp. I went down to the floor right away. I felt like I couldn't move. I was like, oh my God, what is this? It's very new to me. And I couldn't move really well without pain for at least 2 weeks. And then even then, a lot of things bothered me, right? And I tried many things. I tried a lot of mobility exercises that I found didn't work. I kept getting re-injured. I tried some uneven, a lot of different core exercises, still didn't work. I still got injured. And so I found a method that really worked for me and works for a lot of people. And we'll be talking a little bit about that today too. And then I was able to rebuild myself quite a bit and come back to be able to pick out some picnic tables for fun. Okay. Now, that was good for like a handful of years. And then there was a time period where I started getting into some different exercise methodologies to create more rotation, strength, and things like that. And that actually ended up injuring me after many years of not having a lower back injury. And then very recently, I had another one that was supposed to be like more of a stretching mobility exercise type of thing. And I'll cover why those reasons happen, why I would get injured from things that are supposed to be good versus we're actually rebuilding you. So I want you to think there are 5 categories where low back injuries and pain fall into. The first one is going to be breathing dysfunction. Second one is mobility dysfunction. Then we have stability or direction-specific dysfunction. Then we have stability dysfunction or motor control dysfunction. They kind of fall in the same realm. And then we're also going to look into some chronic or what's called nociplastic pain now. So let's go into the first category, breathing dysfunction. That's how air flows in and out of us, right? So there was a study that showed individuals with low back pain breathe differently than healthy individuals during a lifting test. So picking things off the floor, off the ground, just moving things around, they breathe differently. Disorders of breathing and continence have a stronger association with back pain than obesity and physical activity. So that means the way you breathe is more closely related to you having a low back injury, low back pain, than being obese or your physical activity, levels of physical activity. There are links between the mechanics of ventilation and spine stability. So how we breathe affects how stable our spine is. And there's also another one that shows, once again, that way that we breathe affects motor control and posture, how we move around, how we stand, how we rest. And the last one, breathing pattern disorders and functional movement are also very related. Okay, there we go. The diaphragm. This should be our main muscle for breathing. Many of you might have heard this already. We're going to get pretty deep into how this should be working. But essentially, the diaphragm connects to the rib cage on these lower ribs here, right there, and attaches to the back as well, attaches to the vertebra over here. It's a dome-like structure. When it contracts, that makes space in your lungs, and that's how air comes in. There are also auxiliary breathing muscles up here that help you take in a bigger breath if needed. And that's usually what happens when people don't have a good breathing pattern. We have this breathing dysfunction where the diaphragm's not working as well as it should. So we have belly and chest breathing. Like I mentioned, is the belly expanding or is the chest expanding? Also, are we breathing through the nose or are we breathing through the mouth? Your nose is your primary organ for air intake. Now, a lot of people don't realize they are mouth breathers when they actually are. Like I've noticed this a lot, especially in training. I continuously tell a lot of people, you should breathe through your nose more often. Like, I am. No, you're not. You're having your mouth open, you're breathing through your mouth the whole time. When you breathe through your mouth, a lot of things will happen. But the primary one for today's focus is it makes us take this chest breath a lot more naturally because it's a way we take in a lot more air than the nose. So your body's like, oh, we need more air. Let's fill it up real quick. There's also hyperventilation. You can get hyperventilation via small breaths or big breaths. Small breaths or even bigger breaths usually happen more sharply. Like that. And we'll get into how to control the breathing pattern and how to gauge where you're at later today. Second category is going to be the spine mobility dysfunction. That's what we're talking about here is the actual, I have laser here, the actual mobility of the vertebrae, and also this, what's called the SI joint. So do we have limited extension, flexion, or rotation of those vertebrae? Usually people that have this issue, that are more in the mobility dysfunction, they're not going to have referring pain. So it just stays localized in this area, it doesn't go down the leg. They're also usually going to have some type of closing angle pain. So let's say if it hurts when I bend to my right side, this is where the angle is closing. That's a closing angle pain. They might also have some SI joint related issues. Like I said, this part, the sacrum meets the pelvic bone. Now, what are some diagnoses you can get if you have some mobility dysfunctions? You can have facet impingement, lumbar sprain or strain, sacroiliac dysfunction. And why does that matter? Because once we get these diagnoses for a dysfunction, then we can start thinking about things, okay, I know what's going to work best for this dysfunction. So a lot of times people will do just random things like, oh, I heard this work for this person, this work for this person, where they might have a completely different dysfunction. And that's why things will not work. Direction-specific dysfunction. So that means a specific movement will cause the pain, but other ones won't. This could be disc herniation with leg symptoms, reducible discogenic pain, so anything that has to do with the disc, but also can be non-reducible. And diagnosis with, the movements that you can test. So this is something you can do on your own if you wanted to. A physical therapist, or at least a good one, will take you through these motions as well to see which one affects you most. So it's very simple. The first one, the touch your toes. You go down, touch your toes, do it 10 times. Does that cause more pain? No. Does it cause any pain? No. Do it 10 more times. So you do 20, still no. Go to 30, still no. Then that's probably a fine movement to do. Then you do repeat, extending backwards, and you repeat 30 reps for each one, and you find, oh, like right away maybe, yeah, that's a no-go in the first rep. I know I need to avoid that, right? But let's say I do a side bend, or I do, the reach, and like, you know what? The pain's actually going away. Or it's getting centralized. So let's say it was a little bit wider, and now it's like, oh, it's like a smaller area now. Then that means that's probably a good motion to keep working on. So these are standing flexion, standing extension, standing lateral flexion, supine flexion, prone extension. So you'll see a lot of times people do this one specifically, and they're just kind of like giving out like cookie cutter approach, even though it might not be like the best thing to do for yourself. Diagnosis that you can have. You can have bulging herniated discs, lumbar stenosis, all the spondylolisthesis, and the spondylosis. So those are usually, again, they're going to be having some radiated stuff. Stability motor control dysfunction. Now, this is a movement you can test to see if you have this, right? So you do the toe reach, and you don't do it smoothly. So there's something like, you do like something weird somewhere in there as you go into the toes. That's called aberrant movement. There could be a painful arc, so maybe you start really good, and then somewhere in the middle, oh, that hurts, and then like, okay, it's good. That's a painful arc. Maybe the spine doesn't move that well either. There's instability catch. You feel something just like, it just kind of like goes over something weird. If you go down, but then you're like, I gotta do this. I gotta climb up, right? Because I can't lift myself up. So these are people that are gonna have usually some stability or motor control dysfunction. So they look like they move pretty well, but there are little things that give it away. And what happens with these people is they can't really stabilize that well So we're going to look at the stabilizing muscles. These are the inner core muscles. We got the multifidus, diaphragm, transverse abdominis, and muscles of the pelvic floor. So this is stuff that's underneath the six-pack abs and even underneath the obliques. This is all really deep, and they're very small muscles. They're usually slow twitch muscles. What does that mean? They don't fire like quickly like for a jump. They fire slowly and for a long amount of time. They have some maximal contractions. Again, it's not super strong. It's just enough to do the job. And they're anticipatory. That means they contract in order for you to make a movement. So what happens with some of these people, also it can be a little, the timing can be a little offset with the stabilizing muscles. So they can be turning on and off at the wrong time. If they're not working well, the outer core and the main moving muscles, so your abs, your big erector muscles here, will try to compensate, and that becomes more stiff. And also the pain changes the motor control in unpredictable ways for these people. So it's not like, okay, if someone's dealing with pain with this, in this category, with this dysfunction, you can't really predict how the body's going to react to it. It can move in one way better, it can move another, and that same way worse, depending on the person. Some diagnosis, we have segmental instability. You can also probably have congenital hypermobility, so you're born with a lot of hypermobile joints. People will also filter into this, so you just start with some of the other categories, and eventually they come down to this. So maybe they start with a mobility dysfunction, and once that mobility dysfunction gets fixed, now they got to work on stability. You can also just start here if there's no clear directional preference or mobility dysfunction. Like, man, you know what? I tried those other moves. I'm not really fitting into these categories. Let's start here. And the fifth, which is probably the most complex one, is chronic pain. So you've had this for more than 3 months. It's just been ongoing. Usually going to have a high fear or avoidance of movement. You're like, I don't really want to try that. I'm scared to do a lot of different things. There seems to be no clear reason for pain. So maybe you already had like some imaging done. It's like, things look good. I don't know what's going on. They're going to be more hypersensitive to pain. So some things like a little pinch, maybe different type of temperature as well, or sound or light or odors affect them a little more strongly because they're living with pain the whole day. The sleep is going to be not good. It's going to be disturbed. There's going to be a lot of fatigue because pain is tiring on the body. And they might have cognitive problems. What can you do for people that have this type of pain? You can get active progressively. All right, so you really want to take your time like building up. So let's say something works. And you're like, oh man, I can do this activity, I can do this motion, I can do this exercise. You don't want to go wild into it. All right, you got to like slowly pace yourself, building up slowly. You can do more aerobic and endurance exercises. That has been shown to help quite a bit actually for people that have chronic pain. So long endurance exercise. Stress management tools, so things like meditation, sleeping better, like really going into your body, and even learning, for some people, learning how pain works so they can figure things like, oh, okay, this is what my body's going through, might help. Sleep strategies, some key ones here that you can do right away. Get your room colder, get your room dark, eat carbohydrates at dinner more than protein, maybe limit protein intake a little bit more. That has been shown to have some effects on sleep improvement. If you need to reduce noise, you can wear earplugs and things like that. It's pretty simple, especially avoiding blue light though. So that can be in your phone, computer, but even if you have LED lights at home, you may want to get like some blue blocking glasses to wear at home 1 to 2 hours before you go to sleep. And decreasing the perceived threat of movement. So it's feeling like, okay, I know I can do this. I've done it before. I don't have to feel so fearful. And as you're doing exercises for this that you find work, you might progress in those exercises before you feel any changes in pain. So let's say we find some stability and some mobility exercises that can help. You might see improvements in that, but no change in pain. But that should be like, okay, cool. I'm moving better. This is a step closer to where I should be. And then eventually the pain will start reducing. And this is where I want to talk about a little bit of why it's important to have that diagnosis. And a lot of people don't get that diagnosis that I've talked to that have lower back issues. Like, oh yeah, you got lower back pain, and maybe they tell them a little bit. But once you know like what category you filter into more, you can focus on that. So as I mentioned earlier, I tried doing a lot of mobility exercises. It turns out I need more stability work. All right, so the mobility exercises, that's why they didn't work for me. I tried doing a lot of really hard, uneven work, but I need the stability work is small muscles, right? You can't train like super hard. You need to have the right timing set. And not only can those prove ineffective, but they can also be the opposite. They can create more pain. They can harm you more. So when I got hurt doing some mobility stuff per se in the mobility realm, the first time this happened with the same concept, I was hanging from a pull-up bar. All right, and maybe some of you have heard, hanging is really nice. You get your shoulders to stretch, you get your spine to decompress. And that was what I was feeling. I was like, man, but it feels kind of weird. I don't know if it feels right. Maybe it will release. And as soon as I thought that, I felt a sharp pain and I had to drop right away. I'm like, oh, God, you're kidding me. And luckily, on that time, I was able to stay on the floor for a while and incorporate some stability exercises I had already learned. And the next day, I felt like almost 100%, which was really cool to recover that quickly from an episode like that. And just lately, just a few weeks ago, I tried a traction table where it pretty much pulls your thorax and your pelvis apart, and it kind of like moves the pelvis a little bit. And while it was happening, I was like, man, that feels great. This is nice. As soon as it stopped, oh my God, I was like, okay, my lower back's messed up again. So that's why it's so important to know what category you should be focusing on and where you fit in. What joints are involved in our lower back movements, pains, injuries? Hip, back of pelvis, lower back. Now, to be specific, the hip joint we're talking about is where that femur meets the hip, the pelvis. So it's this joint, okay? The back of the pelvis, the SI joint, is right here. So there could be movement or stability issues there. And lower back is the lumbar spine here. Now, what I do want you to take into account as we go later on into this presentation is how these little circles and ovals are organized. They alternate, blue, red, blue, red. What do they mean? That means the blue joints should be very stable. The red joint should be very mobile. And people tend to try to do the opposite for some of these joints and suffer negative consequences. All right, so the foot should be stable. You're planting it down, you're holding onto the floor, maybe you're jumping or running. It should be solid when you hit the floor. But the ankle, it should be able to move around really well. Knee, it should mainly do this. There's a little bit of rotation, but it's mainly this, right? So it should be really stable. You shouldn't be wobbling all over the place. The hip here, very mobile, moving around. Now the lumbar spine, that should be stable. Imagine a tree. The trunk starts wide and then goes narrow as it goes up top, right? Why? Because the trunk needs to be super solid. But up in the branches, it needs to be able to flow with the wind. Our spine is built the same way. It starts thick, it goes narrow, 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 and it actually does get thicker at the very base of the skull. But that's because this should be stable and this should be more mobile. So the thorax up here should be much more mobile than the lumbar, and so on and so forth. these are the movements you can go home and test, like, all right, which ones can I do well? Which ones can I do not well? And start looking into different, the joints and what's going on. This is where, when I'm done explaining these, I'll take some volunteers and do like a little live assessment, okay? Preferably no one with dress on. Just, we're gonna put some legs up, so no dresses, unfortunately. We have standing flexion, standing extension, standing rotation, single leg balance, and a squat movement. Now, these are some of the big assessment tools from the SFMA, and then we break it down after that per joint. So let's go through the first one, standing flexion. We have spine mobility quality. So if I reach for my toes, is my spine moving evenly, or are there flat spots? We're looking also at the angle here of the sacrum. We want that to be at least 70 degrees as we go down. Do the hips shift back? Is there here, or the hips staying over the feet? And can we actually just touch the toes? Standing extension. This one, we stand, we bring the arms up, and we reach back as far as we can. Same thing, we look at the spine quality. Is it moving evenly, or is it one joint that's doing most of the movement? Is the front of the hip going over the toes, and are the shoulder blades over the heels when I reach back? And there's other stuff that the shoulder can affect in that movement, but we're not worried about that today. Standing rotation. If I stand here with my feet together, I'm going to look over one shoulder and turn all the way around. We have rotation of the thoracic and the lumbar spine that are affected here, but we also have hip rotation that gets affected with this. We have a single leg balance. There can be a lot of stability things we catch here, and also there's foot ankle complex. There's a lot of stuff with that, but we're not going to go into that today. And also the squat. For the squat, we get the feet together. We start with the arms in front. We make fists. We squat down as low as we can, and then see if we can touch the fists next to the feet, and then stand up. All right. So those are the kind of like the places you want to be at with those movements. If you can't do the standard that I just showed with those movements in a specific movement, then that's going to be a movement you want to look into. Like, this could be a problem waiting to happen. For the squat, we have a lot of things that are involved: lumbopelvic area, hip joint, knees, obviously, and the foot and the ankle. So, who wants to be the first volunteer? Let's say, who cannot touch their toes? You want to come up? All right, excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Lely. All right, can you come up real quick?
Yes.
Here, I'll help you.
Can I stand in the place that doesn't squeak?
Yes, here.
Squeaking was driving me nuts.
All right, so let's face that way.
Okay, this way.
All right, we're gonna go feet together, all the way together. And usually, we would actually do this for real without shoes, but we'll keep the shoes on. That's okay. So let's see, can we touch the toes? All right, so hold right there. Now, shoes are pretty close to touching the toes, but you can see here, this is flat, right? That's flat. There's some curvature here, but that's flat, so the spine curvature is not that well. Good, come on up. Now, we did see the hips shifting back. The hips didn't stay just over the feet. So there were some check marks, but not all the check marks. And you know, what we'll do is this. Let's come on down. All right, can you bend your knees all the way, like this? Like if I have you on the table to bend these. All right, so what I want you to do is you're gonna come here. You're gonna sit back like this. You can even hang your ankles if you need to for this one. You have the arms to the sides and see if you can bring your forehead down. Yeah, you might want to take the glasses off. Yeah, so the arms by the sides, sit back, hips on heels, and then just bring your forehead down. Yeah, so we can see there's definitely spinal mobility missing. That's still flat So we took the mobility needs out of the equation. You can come up. Thank you very much. So we took the mobility needs out of the equation of standing, and that way the body doesn't have to support itself. To double check, all right, can the spine do this? So there's definitely some like spine mobility issues on that. Okay?
Spinal what issues?
Mobility
Oh, okay.
issues. All right, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right, we can look at the next one. Does anyone want to try this one out? I need some volunteers. People are, why are you guys here to find out if you can do things? It's a free assessment. Normally you get charged for this. Oh, are you guys waiting for the squat? Is that what people are waiting? All right, let's come on up to the stage. Thank you very much. Okay, so we go feet together, and what you're gonna do is try to look up and reach back as far as possible. Yeah, feet together. Yeah, go as far as we can. And that's actually pretty good. Is there any pain when you do that? Okay, I thought that was pretty good. Actually, I don't know, what can we fix? Actually, I'll use it for a little example. Do it one more time. That's okay. Let's do it one more time. I'll help you kind of stay there for a little bit just so I can demonstrate some things. Yeah, reach as far back as you can. Right, so the hips are shifting forward. We're getting over the toes. Shoulder blades are here over the heels, and there's no pain, right? So usually, what we can see too as well, like the spine is moving in one arc instead of having like one point being the big hinge point. So it's really nice. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, next one we can look at is the rotation. Does anyone want to check the rotation out? Yeah, there we go. All right, good. It's coming up real quick so we can demonstrate. All right, so this one I'm actually going to have you first face the screen here, feet together, and then you're going to turn to your right as far as you can. Yeah, now hold right there. So what I'm going to look at first and foremost to make sure she's going far enough is if I can see this far shoulder. So there should be about 100 degrees of turn, so I should be able to see it, but we're missing it a little bit. Now let's turn let's turn the other way. And then now we see, and now I see some knee bending to compensate. Now that she knows that's what I'm looking for, right? So good. Let's come on up or come on down. So we're gonna test a few things here. We're gonna test first the thoracic rotation. I'm gonna need a chair. Actually, you know what? I'm so sorry, Karen. Let's stay up here. Here, you're fine. Okay. Yeah, and I'm gonna get a stick for you. Let's have you sit down. All right. So we break things down. So now, as you're sitting, we're gonna isolate the upper body. So the total spine rotation. I'm gonna have you take your right foot over the left, and okay, we're a little short on the legs. That's okay, but let's make sure. Actually, can you scoot forward if anything? Yes, let's keep the right foot flat there. Can we take the hands behind like this with the stick? Excellent. All right, so you're gonna turn to your right as far as you can. Keep that right foot flat. There we go. And let's scoot forward a little bit more just so this doesn't stop you. Okay, one more time. Okay, and I'm looking really at the shoulders here. And actually she's getting enough here on the right side. Let's go to the left. The feet the same? Let's turn, good question. Let's change the feet. Thank you. And now the left foot's gonna stay flat as you turn to the left. Yeah, all right, good. Very nice. So she actually went enough there. We want 50 degrees of rotation on that. So that eliminates the spine out of that equation. So now, since that's clear, it's probably going to be something with the hips. Okay, we check the hips a little bit. your bionic hips. We'll do some quick ones. Nothing too crazy. All right. So since the test is done standing, that means is going to be rotation of the hips in a straight position and not a bent position. So what I'm going to have you do is lie down face down on the table, whichever way you want to go. Okay. Yeah, arms to the sides, wherever you want. So I'm going to bend this leg here. Now, what I want you to do is keeping 90 degrees at the knee, you're going to bring the foot to the outside as far as you can. Okay, come back here. Now do that again without letting the hips come up. Okay, and now you're going to go to the other side. All right, no, not bad. Let's do the other side. So now we rotate one way. Here we're looking, okay, we're looking for 30 degrees going that way. So this, obviously, there's a big asymmetry here. But let's see the other side, the other way. And we're looking for 40 degrees there, which she's getting into right there. So I'm wondering, okay, come on up. So normally that would be like, that's kind of like a little bit odd case. Maybe just like getting the like squeeze of the rotation, give you a little extra. But we usually will see something's going to stop before we get to the degree requirement. But we did notice that big asymmetry from left to right on the internal hip rotation, where the left goes a lot further.
Yeah. This is the more recent hip replacement.
Oh, okay, well, there you go.
Probably doesn't go as far.
Okay, not yet.
Not yet.
All right, thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
So it's a fail positive. And then what's next? Single leg stance. Does anyone have any balance issues? Everybody? They're getting. So I'm gonna, okay, I just need one person. I'm gonna show you one little test you can check. All right, there we go. It's actually not, we wouldn't do this test specifically for single leg, but it's usually done with the extension. So let's have you lie down face up. Yeah. Okay, so this is to check how the hips are doing. And Maggie here might be a good candidate for this. Okay, I'm gonna be in a weird angle for this so people can see. But let's get up a little bit more. Yeah, right there's great. So I'm just gonna take your leg. Boom. This is called the Faber test. Now here, keeping your hips down, slowly let this knee drop down. What do you call this test? Faber. Is that how you say it? Yes, Faber. All right, and I'm looking to see if this is two fists, will be her fists, from the floor or from the table, right? And it's not here, but what we're gonna do is check if that's a mobility or stability issue. So what I want you to do here is bring the arms up, both arms, good. Now, you're going to push into you can use palms forward. And then you're gonna push into my arms. There we go. And now you're gonna let that knee slowly fall down like you did before. Okay, it doesn't really go that much further. So that's gonna be like a little mobility issue with that one. So now the other side. So what I'm doing with that pressure is, you can bring the arms down for now, and then bring this knee slowly down. And this one's even worse, right? This is like 3 to 3.5 fists. And let's check if it's a mobility or stability issue. So bring the arms up. So it's not automatically a mobility issue. Okay, push and then slowly let it fall. So it actually, I don't know if you guys saw that, but it dropped a little bit more. So that means there are some stability issues with that, but that's still not at that two fist position. So we're gonna look at some other things. So we're gonna look at it if she can extend her hip to at least 0. So I'm gonna have you come on up and just stand here at the edge of the mat so that your butt is like barely on this, and then you're gonna fall back. And you're gonna bring your knees in with you. Just don't fall off the mat, off the table.
Go like this?
Yeah, excellent. So now we're gonna see if the hip can extend fully. You can let go. All right, so I'm gonna first make sure the sacrum is on the table, so that way she's not rounding the spine. And then you just let me have your leg. Yeah, just let me have it. And then slowly I'm going to bring her knee down and see if she can extend. And she does. And it's not flaring out. So she has full hip extension there on that side. And then on that side as well. All right, good. You can come up. Nice. And those are just 2 tests. We can see, and you can kind of maybe check on yourself if you record yourself a little bit. See, okay, I'm going to do that. How far is my knee going? Am I getting this full straight line here, or am I stopping there? Or is my knee even going outward as I do that? And we can check angles a little bit more specifically like that. And then the last one is the squat. Does anyone want to check for the squat? There's a lot of stuff for the squat. All right, so for the squat, because nobody wants to go, we can check rotation of the hips in a bent position. So where I did it before, someone lying down where the hips are straight, now the hips are bent because that's, bending the hips as we're squatting. So we just stay up and then see, can we rotate this way 30 degrees? Can I rotate this way 40 degrees? All right, so that's, okay, is my active good, is my active bad? And then you would need some help to see if it's a mobility or stability issue. Let's say I can't get there, but I lie down and then someone does it for me, then that means, and I can get the full range of motion, then it's gonna be more of a stability issue for that. All right, so that's how you start breaking down things of, okay, I can't do this, but do I need to mobilize it more, or do I need to learn how to stabilize more? And that's where the proper approach into those joints come in handy, and those specific actions as well. That's a little complex, but that's kind of what happens in that SFMA assessment. All right, so things you can do now that require no further, like really putting time into. You can just go out and do it. All right, it's not like stretching. Stretching takes a few weeks to see results. This you can do right now. Belly breathing. So normally this would be done first lying down because it's the easiest position to check, but you can do this sitting. If you just put both feet down on the floor, put one hand on your belly, the other hand on your chest, and just take some normal breaths. Just take regular breaths and start noticing which hand moves the most. Okay, and maybe because you heard that I said your belly should be moving more earlier, maybe you're making it do that. So here's what I want you to do. Really pay attention to those hands and take a huge breath in. Which hand moved the most? Some people change, yeah. So once you do that fast inhale through the nose, your more natural, your more default breathing pattern will kick in. And you're like, oh man, it was on my chest when I did that. All right, so belly breathing, you get your feet up. You can do this on a chair or put your feet up on the wall, and you just practice this. The more you practice it consciously, the more you will do it subconsciously. And don't just stop there. This is where a lot of people kind of get, I wouldn't say wrong, but limited, is they just focus on the belly inflating. What I want you to do is take your hands and put them right here. You can touch the rib cage a little bit, but when that diaphragm contracts, we should have the whole bottom of the rib cage expanding 360 degrees. So it's not the belly that just goes forward, but we should feel expansion sideways and also on that lower back area a little bit. All right, so when you practice that breathing method, focus here, 360 degrees, not just belly, okay? And the more positions you can do this from, the better. Learning to brace. Now, there are 3 main ways you can brace. Which one's gonna work best for you at the moment in your life? You're gonna figure out actually the best when you are in pain, in a little bit of pain, because then you'll figure like, oh, that actually helps a lot. It's like, I don't feel the pain right now. But there are 3 ways. 3 ways. First way is imagine someone's gonna punch in the gut. Tense up those abs. Okay, that's bracing number 1. Number 2, you take your shoulders back and down, and that locks in your lats. That's bracing method number 2. Bracing method number 3, take your fingers, press on the soft part on the lower abdomen, so right below the rib cage and right above the pelvis, and you push them out with your muscles. Okay, so that's 3 ways to brace. Which one's going to work best for you is going to depend. All right, so pick an exercise, pick a movement that you feel like messes you up, maybe carrying stuff, and then see, okay, oh, when I carry this, it's fine. It's not, I'm not really being affected if I do it this way. But if I do it this way, it doesn't really change. And like I said, it can vary depending on the injury or even like when the injury was or what year, anything like that. Because I used to have to contract more of the front, but this last one, I found contracting the back was a lot more stable for me. Bracing. The McGill Big 3. These are really good stability exercises to do. I'm just going to demonstrate real quick. The first one's actually, the picture's kind of wrong. It's better to do it with one leg bent, one leg straight. Hands are under the lower back. The elbows are off the floor as you exhale. Exhale fully as you crunch. Inhale down, repeat. If the shoulders are too tight for that, maybe you keep one shoulder down. If both shoulders are too tight, you rolled up a towel, put it underneath. You keep your hands here as you crunch. And you want to have that space in the lower back. That's why you want to have a towel or your hands to keep the normal curvature of your spine so that your muscles can get used to functioning in that position instead of being functioning in this like maybe a rounded position or hyperextended position. The other one is the side plank. I'm on my forearm. I prefer people start with the knee on the side plank. Same thing, exhale, squeezing everything with the exhale. Bringing the hips down when you inhale and repeat. Once that gets pretty easy, you can do it onto the feet with the legs straight. And then the bird dog's the last one here. On the hands and knees, nice long spine, not letting the spine hyperextend, not starting rounded. And also, a lot of people have no shoulder stability, so they'll collapse here. So you want to push the chest away from the floor. And here, I like to do taps once people are stable enough to just hold for like 30 seconds each side. I add the taps, no pelvic movement. So I'm not doing this. You'll see a lot of people do this. All right, this can be a maybe nice little crunch exercise, like I want to squeeze my abs. Oh, that's good, but it's not doing anything for stability really that much. Here, I'm stiffening those stabilizing muscles as I learn to move from the shoulder and from the hip, which a lot of people have a problem differentiating, which is why we have to learn how to hinge. So we can take a stick. We have 3 points of contact with the stick. Back of the head between the shoulder blades, sacrum, or like tailbone area, you can think about it that way. Top hand by the neck, facing you. Bottom hand by the lower back, facing away. And you keep those 3 points of contact as you bend at the hips. And we don't lose them at any point. So a lot of times people will go like around here, and they start doing this. So just like a tiny, tiny bit of flexion in that lumbar, and I get separation in that lower point. Right? So we want to learn how to keep that neutral spine. That's why the hand is here, to keep that arch. Okay? But if your shoulder is super tight, maybe you have to start here with the palm facing you and keeping those 3 points of contact. And then, what's that? Question? Okay, never mind. And one extra here is once you learn how to hinge, also learning how to pivot, how to turn from the hip joint instead of twisting the spine, because the number one action to avoid is twisting and bending the spine under load. All right, how many times have you heard or been this person? I was just moving some laundry, I was just taking some pots out, can't move, right? It's like lightweight, but you got the spine in the right position that gets the most affected, that gets the most exposed to injury. When you twist and then you also bend, like I don't even want to do it. like, okay? So a lot of people do that, and it's just those micro movements that you continuously do. You might not realize it, but they build up, and eventually that laundry basket is the one that pulls your back. Repeatedly bending the spine under load. So let's say you're doing some type of deadlifts or something, or maybe you're just doing gardening. You like got to pick stuff up, right? But you keep bending at the lumbar, especially more than anything is the lumbar. Bending and straightening there instead of keeping that rigid. But I can move my upper back because that should be movable, where this should be stable, right? Like we learned a little bit earlier. I can move this. And you'll see a lot of people recommend this exercise called the Jefferson curl, where they grab a bar and they like hang on the edge or something because they have really good mobility. And they feel like, yeah, you gotta do this one. You gotta lift your spine around. But a lot of times you see really, really closely, those people have a really nice, stable spine, and they're moving from here up as they do it. So they're not actually bending their lower back that much. It's the rest of the spine that's moving more. And then the people that try that usually get hurt. Maintaining a natural posture for a long time. So remember that sitting the people that operate motor vehicles a lot, they're sitting a long time. Sitting is not bad, but sitting in bad positions is going to be detrimental. So if I'm here, I'm nicely stacked. Maybe I can put a little towel here to support my lower back. I can sit like this for a bit without really doing any damage. But it's when we're like this, and now my lower back is flexed the whole time, or the other way, maybe like hyperextending. All right, so it's those positions that we're staying in a long time in, where now our vertebrae is getting squished one way or the other. Being inactive, like we saw in those chronic pain people, being active, getting more active in a progressive manner is great. So a lot of walking, maybe even like walking backwards, walking up a hill, walking backwards up a hill, getting creative with it. You don't have to just be limited to this flat ground, right? So the more you can do that doesn't hurt you, the better. And last but not least on these is babying the back muscles. All right, we get very cautious. We get a little fear, like, oh man, I'm afraid of deadlifts. I don't get any pain right now. I'm not pain anymore, but I don't want to do deadlifts. And when we avoid doing back-specific muscles, back-specific exercises, those back muscles atrophy. They lose strength. And what does that mean? Less strength means you can't take as much load, which opens you up to more injuries in the future. So you want to do things like deadlifts, but progress it slowly and do a really good hinge and learn to use that bracing method. You want to do things like a Superman or Superwoman, boom, holding, isolating those back muscles. You want to do those back extensions. Maybe you don't start with a full extension. Maybe you help yourself. Maybe you just hold it. Anything that works those back muscles to start strengthening more is going to be great. This specific study here, there are some studies that try to show the difference between endurance or strength-focused exercises on back pain, but some of them kind of focus just general endurance of core exercises. This one shows very specific, all right, we're going to focus on back core specific exercises versus general strength training for athletes with back pain. And they saw the athletes that focus more on the endurance exercises for the back had better results in reducing pain or eliminating pain than the athletes that just did general strength training. So that's why I said, don't get away from that. Maybe you do more repetitions so that you feel a little bit safer because it's lighter weight, but you can keep progressing, all right? Now, we talked about this subject. We had the studies to show the statistics. A lot of people suffer from this. It's a very serious matter. We have the categories we can fall into. Is it a stability? Is it mobility? Is it movement specific? Or maybe you have some chronic issues. Maybe it's your breathing pattern. And we've gone over things that you can try now, as well as different assessment tools. Some of them you can try on your own at home to see, okay, I'm deficient in this movement, this pattern. I should look into this a little bit more closely. And this is a serious matter. Like, we want to be able to age and be active. We want to be able to age and do the things that we enjoy doing, right? And spending time with our loved ones. So really take this seriously with the things that I've brought up, because there's a lot of research backing it and a lot of success stories as well. And it's very, like, when you see someone, oh, this thing worked for me, it's, oh, you probably fell into this category and that's why this thing fell for you, or worked for you, but I fall into this other category and that's why it's not going to work. I have met a lot of people that I've told, all right, you have to be super conscious about not bending that spine. Like, you really have to be, like, I'm not joking. Like, you have to do it even when you're putting your shoes on. You got to bring that up to you, and then you got to lunge down, staying upright, do this, okay? Maybe you take your socks and your pants with you, and you got to get down first, and then you put them on so you don't bend your spine, right? And on the video there, you're going to have a QR code after this. I show how to get down on and off the floor, so you know how to do that. But not a lot of people do it. I had, like, literally one person that I've worked with, maybe two, that I told them that. And this one specific client, man, he was doing some jumps, and I've actually I've like tweaked my back doing jump before when I didn't know what to do. And I was like, you know what? I saw him rounding his back. I was like, I don't think that's gonna be a problem. He's just jumping, you know. He's not holding on to weights or anything like that. It's just his body weight. And sure enough, after I thought that, the next day he just, oh man, I just feel something in my back. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? He was just jumping. So I told him, all right, this is what you got to do. And he did it. And he hasn't had any problems since. He's like, yeah, it's been great. I just got to, like, really be conscious of not moving the spine, the lower back so much. So when you do these things, they work. And we want to keep that in mind. Every action, every repetition that we take will affect, because we breathe thousands of times. We bend thousands of times in the day. But how are we doing it? Do we keep picking the scab of our wound, or are we letting things heal so that we can move better and enjoy our lives? Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in today.